Hi, I'm Coop. Welcome to my kitchen, where I'd like to share some food and tips that have helped me and my family enjoy the way we eat healthy. Today, I'm making beef stew, using a beef shoulder roast, which I have cut up into smaller steaks. And for my other ingredients, I'm using onions, carrots, celery, bell peppers, a can of corn, plus some vegetable broth. I also seasoned it to a warm, savory flavor, plus sweetened with some honey, which will be added towards the end of cooking the stew. I wanted to prep my shoulder roast the night before. To do that, I cut it into smaller steaks. That makes it easier for me to brown all of my meat on both sides. If your piece of meat is too big and won't brown, it'll just cook through. To cut into steaks, cut the roast into sections. And if they're a little thick, cut them down the middle. If you're uncomfortable cutting them down the middle, that's alright. They will still brown, and you'll be able to cut them into chunks later. After cutting my shoulder roast into smaller steaks, I salted on both sides. I used kosher salt, which is the salt that I normally use. I covered with aluminum foil and stored overnight in my fridge. But you can cover with whatever you want if you are going to prep your steaks the night before. I'm going to slice the carrots. First, cut off the stem end. Then cut into smaller sections. I find that it is easier to cut the sections in half than having the entire carrot. After having all of the carrot sections, cut across the halves down their length. For the stew, I sliced my carrots pretty thick, but you cut to your desired thickness. The carrots weighed 634 grams, which is about 22.4 ounces. I also sliced the celery. The top of my celery is looking a little rough, so I'm just going to chop it off. To turn into individual stalks, cut off the bottom where they all connect. The individual stalks may be a little dirty, so go ahead and rinse them off again. This will remove any remaining soil. To slice, cut across the stalks down their length. The celery weighed 423 grams, which is about 15 ounces. I'm going to slice the bell peppers as well. First, cut off the top, then place upside down, and slice down the length of the sides of the pepper to remove the body of the pepper from the core. To get the last side off, I find it easier placing it back on its side and cutting it off from there, and then cutting off the bottom from the core as well. I don't want to waste any of my peppers, so I'm going to slice the top bit that I cut off earlier, cutting around the stem. Slice the pepper sides to your desired size. The peppers weighed 518 grams, which is about 18.25 ounces. And yes, I am also going to slice one of my onions, but I'm going to dice the other two. For all your onions, cut off the top or the bottom, and then cut them in half and peel. To slice, cut across down the length of the onion. I sliced all of my vegetables to a medium-sized thickness, if not thicker. That way that they would still provide some bite or crunch after cooking in the stew for a while, but sliced to your preferred thickness. To dice, slice horizontally from bottom to top, then cut vertically down the length of the onion. To complete the dice, cut across to your desired size. The onions weighed 562 grams, which is about 20 ounces. For the full recipe, and the calories of the ingredients, please check the description. To season the stew, I'm going to use garlic powder and oregano, which will provide a savory flavor, plus allspice, cinnamon, ginger, and paprika for a nice warm taste. Add 1.5 tablespoons of paprika, 1 tablespoon garlic powder, allspice, cinnamon, and ginger have strong flavors and can easily overpower the other spices. So add 1.5 teaspoons of ginger, 1.5 teaspoons of allspice, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, and for some additional savoriness, add 1.5 tablespoons of oregano, plus black pepper to taste. Over medium-high heat, add 1 tablespoon of olive oil, or your preferred oil, to a large pot. Once the oil has heated up, it's time to brown the steaks, which we'll do on both sides. Brown a couple of steaks at a time, because trying to brown all of your meat at once is hard. The water released from the meat will steam the meat and keep the steaks from browning and the fond from developing on the bottom of the pan. The fond will make sure that the beef flavor is present in every single spoonful of the stew. After browning all the steaks, place to the side, as they will be cut into smaller stew chunks later. It's time to add the vegetables. All of my vegetables did not fit inside my pan, which is alright. They will reduce in size as they cook. Use the water released by the vegetables to scrape up the fond. If you cannot add all of your vegetables at once, let them cook for a while, and then whenever there is room, add the rest. Check to see if you need any oil to be able to toast the spice mix. If you do, add about a teaspoon. Add the spice mix on top of the oil and stir in after a few seconds to keep the spice mix from burning. Add broth or water shortly after. Then add the can of corn with all of its liquid. While the vegetables simmer away, it's a good time to cut up the steaks. I'm going to cut into decent sized chunks, or cut to the size that you wish. Slice across, down the length of the steaks. If the slices are too big, cut them into smaller chunks. After cutting up the steak, I'm going to add it back to the pot. You might need to add more water or broth, depending on how soupy you want it to be. I added about a half of a tablespoon, which is 7.5 grams. Placing the lid slightly ajar will keep most of the moisture in, but allows for some evaporation. Taste your stew as you go, so that you know how much salt and also how much honey you need to add. I plan on letting my stew go for 45 to 60 minutes. That way all the flavors meld together and every spoonful tastes delicious. Check every so often and stir to keep things from burning. My steak chunks are going to be well done. If you don't want your steak chunks to be well done, you can add them later and cook to your desired temperature. You just need to make sure that everything is warmed through. After letting the stew cool, I am now ready to get the best weight measurement possible, as the steam release changes the final weight of the dish. The final weight of the dish is 3,608 grams, which is about 127¼ ounces. To get the calories per weight unit, I divided the total calories, about 2,783, by either grams, 3,608, or ounces, about 127¼ giving me 0.77 calories per gram, or about 22 calories per ounce. My bowl has 269 grams, which is about 9½ ounces in it, so I have about 208 calories in my bowl. The stew is ready to be served. Thanks for stopping by. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and comment. You can check out my Instagram at in_coops_kitchen. Now go make some great tasting food.